The chains were heavier than Lira expected. Cold iron bit into her wrists as Elder Corvin dragged her through Shadowbrook's muddy streets. Rain mixed with the tears of women watching from doorways. None of them moved to help, and none dared. "Please," Lyra's voice cracked, though she hated herself for begging. "There has to be another way." Corvin didn't look at her. "The Vampire King demands a bride. Would you rather he take 10 girls? 20? Lyra's silver eyes blazed with fury. "You're cowards!" "We're survivors," Corvin snapped. "Something your witch mother never understood." The words hit harder than any blow. Her mother had died 3 winters ago, burned alive for knowing too much about herbs, for healing too well, for being different. Now Lyra would pay for her mother's gifts. "Good," a dark voice whispered in Lyra's mind. "Let them all burn for this." But she pushed the thought away. Hatred wouldn't save her. They reached the Obsidian Pass, where vampire envoys waited on, midnight black horses, their red eyes gleaming. A female vampire in silver armor circled Lyra slowly, inhaling deeply. "This one will do," she purred. "King Valor will be interested." "Take her," Corvin said quickly. "The tribute is paid." As they dragged Lyra toward the horses, she caught sight of her 10-year-old brother Finn hiding behind a barrel, his face streaked with tears. "I'll come back," she promised silently. But even as she thought it, she wondered if she was lying to herself. The vampires threw her onto a horse and rode into darkness. Behind them, Shadowbrook's gates closed with brutal finality. The journey took 3 days of cold silence and starvation rations. When Nightfall Citadel finally emerged from the mist, Lyra understood why they called it the Crown of Shadows. Black spires twisted toward the sky like claws. Crimson light pulsed from hundreds of windows. The shadows seemed alive, reaching and hungry. It was the most terrifying thing she'd ever seen, and somehow it was beautiful. Inside, dozens of vampires lined the entrance hall, watching her with predatory hunger. They led her through opulent corridors to a massive throne room where a figure sat wreathed in living darkness. King Valor Draven. He was nothing like the monster from the stories. He was devastatingly beautiful, dark silver hair, elegant features, an aristocratic face that belonged in paintings. But his eyes stopped her cold, burning red, ancient, empty, like looking into the void itself. When his gaze focused on Lyra, she felt the weight of 6 centuries pressing down on her. Her knees nearly buckled. Valor studied her in silence. Then his lips curved into something that might have been a smile if smiles could hold that much contempt. "So," his voice was velvet wrapped around steel, "this is what Shadowbrook considers worthy tribute." Lyra's jaw clenched. Anger burned through her fear. "If I'm so unworthy, why demand a bride at all?" The throne room fell silent. Every vampire froze. Valor's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those dead eyes. "Did I give you permission to speak? Did I ask for it?" The silver-armored vampire looked like she might faint, but Valor stood slowly, descending from his throne with predatory grace. Each step was measured, deliberate. The shadows followed him like obedient dogs. He stopped inches from Lyra, so close she could feel unnatural coldness radiating from his body. He gripped her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. "Listen carefully, human." His voice was deadly soft. "You are here because your village was too weak to resist. You are here because your life means nothing." His thumb traced her lower lip, ice cold. "You are here to suffer." He released her abruptly and addressed the room. "This human will live just long enough to regret breathing my air." But as guards dragged Lyra away, she caught something in his expression. Just for a heartbeat, not hatred, but fear. Why would the vampire king fear her? They locked Lyra in a luxurious chamber that was still a prison. 4-poster bed, silk sheets, barred windows overlooking mountains. She tested the bars immediately. Solid iron, immovable. A young vampire named Lira brought food and warned her of the rules. Don't leave after dark, don't wander without escort, and never enter the West Wing. "What's in the West Wing?" Lyra asked. Alara's face went pale. "The king's chambers, and other things. Things better left alone." After Lira left, Lyra searched her room methodically. No weapons, no tools, just gowns and cosmetics and her own reflection. silver eyes staring back, angry and afraid. "You wanted them to burn," that dark voice whispered again. "Now you're the one burning." A knock interrupted her thoughts. Alara returned, carrying a leather-bound book. She set it on the table, glancing nervously at the door. "The king ordered me to give you this," she whispered. He said you need to understand what you are before he decides what to do with you." "What I am?" Lira frowned. "I'm human." "Read the book." Alara backed toward the door, genuine fear in her eyes. "And pray you're not what he thinks you are. Because if you are—" She swallowed hard. "The last one died screaming, and King Valor was the one who killed her." She fled. Lira opened the book with shaking hands. The title made her blood run cold. Bloodbound. The Curse of the Feeling Blood. She began to read. "The bloodbound are born once every century, marked by silver eyes and blood that sings with ancient power. To vampires their blood is irresistible, sweeter than wine, more intoxicating than any human. But when a vampire feeds from a bloodbound, their souls merge. The vampire regains all they lost when they were turned: love, compassion, guilt, joy, and pain. Every human emotion floods back in overwhelming waves. The bloodbound becomes the vampire's anchor to lost humanity. But this gift is also a weapon, if the bloodbound manipulates the bond. If they use it to control the vampire, the soul bond shatters. The vampire becomes something worse than they were before, a monster without conscience, driven only by rage and endless hunger." Lira read faster, her heart pounding. Most bloodbound never survive the bonding. The vampire's emotions are too intense, too violent. The human mind breaks under the weight of centuries of suppressed feeling, and if the bloodbound betrays the vampire, death is mercy compared to what follows. Lira set down the book, her hands trembling. This was why Valor had looked at her with fear. This was why he'd said she would suffer. She was bloodbound, and someone like her had destroyed him before. Valor stood alone in his private chambers, staring at nothing. 600 years old, and he could still remember the exact moment his heart had stopped beating. The exact moment humanity had drained from his body, replaced by cold immortality. He'd thought it was freedom. He'd been wrong. "My lord." Kale appeared in the doorway. "The human is reading the book. She knows what she is now." "Good." Valor's voice was flat. "Then she understands why she has to die." Kale hesitated. "You don't sound certain." "I'm not." Valor turned to face his oldest friend. "I should have killed her in the throne room. The moment I smelled her blood, I should have snapped her neck." "But you didn't." "No." Valor's hands clenched into fists. "Because looking at her, I saw Serenia. Not her face, but that same defiance, that same fire." "Serenia betrayed you," Kale said quietly. "She used the bond to make you weak. She nearly destroyed the kingdom. She destroyed more than the kingdom." Valor's voice dropped to a whisper. "She destroyed me. When I felt her betrayal through the bond, when I realized she'd been manipulating every emotion I felt, it was like dying all over again. Worse than dying." He remembered it with brutal clarity. The moment he'd discovered Serenia's alliance with the Vampire Council's enemies. The moment he'd realized that every tender word, every gentle touch, every whispered "I love you" had been a calculated move to weaken him. He'd killed her with his bare hands. And when the bond shattered, so had he. For 600 years he'd felt nothing. No love, no hate, no joy, and no pain. Just endless and cold emptiness. It was hell. But it was safe. "This girl Lira, she's different," Kale said. "I've watched her. She doesn't try to seduce or manipulate. She just survives. For now," Valor said bitterly. "But the bond will change her. It changed Serenia. It will change Lira too." "What if it doesn't?" Valor laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Then I'm a fool for hoping. Again." Lira barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw words from the book. Death is mercy compared to what follows. At dawn, guards came for her. They led her through corridors, pulsing with crimson light, to a vast library that smelled of old paper and leather. Valor waited by the fireplace, reading. He didn't look up as she entered. "Sit." Lira sat in a high-backed chair, folding her hands to hide their shaking. She waited. Valor continued reading for several long minutes. Finally, he closed the book with a soft thud and turned those burning red eyes on her. "You've read about what you are," he said. Not a question. "Yes." "Then you understand why you're going to die." Lyra's throat tightened. "Because someone like me hurt you before." Valor's expression went cold. "Serenia didn't just hurt me. She used the blood bond as a weapon. She made me feel love, compassion, mercy, all the things that make a king weak. While I was drowning in emotions I hadn't felt in centuries, she was working with my enemies to overthrow me." "I'm not her," Lira said quietly. "That's what she said too." Valor moved closer and Lira fought the urge to retreat. At first she seemed genuine, kind, brave. She made me believe love was possible again. His voice turned razor sharp. "She was an excellent actress." "I'm not acting." "Then prove it." "How?" Lira challenged. "How can I prove I won't betray you when you won't give me the chance?" Valor smiled, a terrible, empty thing. "That's the problem, isn't it? I can't know until the bond forms, and once it forms, it's too late." He sat across from her, close enough that she could see old scars on his hands. Vampire scars, the kind that only came from truly devastating wounds. "I'm going to test you," Valor said. "For the next few weeks I'm going to watch you, study you, push you. And if I see even a hint of manipulation, even a whisper of deception—" "You'll kill me," Lira finished. Slowly. They stared at each other across the chessboard of their impossible situation. "What if I pass your tests?" Lira asked. "What then?" "Then you get to live in a cage," Valor said flatly. "Comfortable, safe, but still a prisoner, because I will never trust a bloodbound again. And I will never complete the bond." "Never?" "Never." The word was absolute, final. "I would rather spend eternity empty than risk feeling that kind of pain again." Lira saw the truth in his eyes. He wasn't being cruel. He was being honest. This was a man so deeply broken that he'd rather be dead inside forever than risk being alive and hurt again. And somehow that made everything worse. "I'm sorry," Lira said quietly, "for what she did to you." Valor's eyes widened slightly, surprised. "Why would you apologize for her actions?" "Because someone should." Lira leaned forward. "Because what she did was wrong. Not all bloodbound are weapons. Some of us are just people, trying to survive." For a long moment Valor said nothing. Something flickered behind his eyes. Not quite warmth, but not quite emptiness either. "We'll see," he said finally. Then he stood and walked to the door. "First test. I'm sending you to the throne room this afternoon. There will be vampires there, hungry ones. If you try to use your blood to manipulate them, I'll know." "I don't even know how to do that," Lira protested. "Then you'll be fine." Valor paused in the doorway. "Or you won't. Either way, I'll have my answer." He left. Lira sat alone in the library, fear coiling in her stomach. She had no idea how to pass a test when she didn't even understand the rules. But she would figure it out. She had to. Because the alternative was death, and Finn was still in Shadowbrook, waiting for her to come home. That afternoon, guards escorted Lira to the throne room. It was packed with vampires, at least 50 of them, all watching her with hungry red eyes. Lyra's heart hammered as she walked down the center aisle toward where Valor sat on his throne. He looked like a dark god wreathed in shadows, his crown glinting in the crimson light. "Kneel," one of the guards ordered. Lira knelt, keeping her head high. She wouldn't grovel. Valor addressed the court in a voice that echoed like thunder. "This human is under my protection. Anyone who touches her without permission will answer to me." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Confusion. Curiosity. Hunger. A vampire lord. Near the front, ancient, with golden eyes, stepped forward. "My king. If she's bloodbound as rumored, shouldn't she be contained or eliminated?" "She's being evaluated," Valor said coldly. "Then let us help evaluate her." The golden-eyed lord smiled, showing fangs. "Let me taste her blood, just a drop, to verify what she is." Lyra's blood turned to ice. "No," Valor said flatly. "My king, if she truly is bloodbound." "I said no, Lord Theron." But Theron didn't back down. The council will want proof. They'll demand— The council doesn't rule here, Valor interrupted, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper. I do, and I've made my decision. Theron's expression darkened. With respect, my king, you're being protective, almost possessive, of a human. He glanced at Lira, with calculating eyes. One might think the bond has already begun to affect you. The throne room went dead silent. Valor stood slowly, shadows erupting around him like living smoke. The temperature dropped so fast Lira could see her breath. Are you questioning my judgment, Theron? The vampire lord held his ground, barely. I'm expressing concern. The last bloodbound nearly destroyed you. We cannot— Get out! The words exploded through the room with enough force to crack stone. Vampires stumbled backward. Even Theron paled. All of you, Valor commanded. Leave. Now. The throne room emptied in seconds. Even the guards fled. Only Lira remained, still kneeling, her heart racing. Valor descended from his throne and approached her. His shadows writhed around him, agitated and dangerous. Stand up. Lira stood on shaking legs. Valor circled her slowly, and she felt like prey being assessed by a predator. Do you know what you just did? I didn't do anything, Lira said. Exactly. Valor stopped in front of her. Theron was testing you, trying to provoke you, to see if you'd use your blood's influence to protect yourself, and you didn't. I told you, I don't know how— Most bloodbound do it instinctively when threatened, Valor interrupted. Their blood calls to nearby vampires, compelling them. It's unconscious, automatic. His red eyes searched hers. But you didn't even try. Is that good? I don't know yet. Valor's hand came up to grip her chin. Not roughly, but firmly. His skin was ice cold. Either you're genuinely not manipulative, or you're a better actress than Serenia ever was. I'm not acting, Lira said through gritted teeth. Then prove it. Valor leaned closer and Lyra's breath caught. Let me into your mind. There's a spell, old vampire magic, that lets me see your thoughts, your intentions. If you're hiding something, I'll know. Lyra's stomach dropped. You want to read my mind? I want the truth. And if I say no? Then I'll assume you're hiding something, Valor said. And you die tonight. Lyra's mind raced. Let him see her thoughts, her fear, her anger, the dark part of her that had wanted Shadowbrook to burn. But if she refused, she died anyway. Fine, she said. Do it. Valor's eyes widened slightly. Surprise again. He'd expected her to refuse. He placed both hands on either side of her face, his palms cold against her skin. This will feel invasive, uncomfortable. Don't fight it, or it will hurt. Just do it, Lira whispered. Valor's eyes began to glow brighter. Lira felt something slither into her mind, cold and foreign and utterly wrong. It rifled through her thoughts like pages in a book. She felt him see everything. Her mother burning, her hatred for Shadowbrook, her love for Finn, her fear of Valor. And underneath it all, something she hadn't wanted to admit even to herself. Her fascination with the Vampire King. The way his emptiness called to something in her. The dangerous thought that maybe, just maybe, she could be the one to fix him. Valor jerked his hands away as if burned. He stared at her, breathing hard, his expression unreadable. He stopped. Started again. You actually care. About me? Already? I don't know you, Lira said defensively. But you want to, Valor said, and there was something almost like wonder in his voice. You see a broken thing and you want to heal it, just like your mother did. Is that so wrong? It's dangerous. Valor turned away, running a hand through his silver hair. Serenia pretended to care. You actually do. That's worse. How is genuine care worse than manipulation? Because it makes me want to trust you. Valor whirled back to face her, and for the first time she saw real emotion crack through his mask. Because it makes me hope. And hope is what destroys you in the end. Lira took a step closer. Dangerous, but necessary. What if it doesn't? What if hope is what saves you? It won't, Valor said flatly, but his voice shook slightly. You don't know that. I do. Valor's jaw clenched. Because I felt your thoughts, Lira. I saw your kindness, your genuine desire to help. And do you know what terrifies me? What? That you might actually mean it. He looked at her with something like anguish. And if you do, if you're really not like Serenia, then I've wasted 600 years being empty when I could have been alive. The weight of that realization hung between them. You passed the test, Valor said finally, his voice hollow. You're not manipulative. You're not deceptive. You're just kind. Dangerously kind. So I get to live? For now. Valor moved toward the door. But stay away from me, Lira. Don't try to heal me. Don't try to fix what's broken, because if you succeed... He looked back at her one last time. I won't survive losing it again. Then he was gone, leaving Lira alone in the vast throne room. She'd passed the test. But somehow, that felt more dangerous than failing. Over the next 2 weeks, Valor avoided her. He sent Ilara with food and books. He had guards escort her through the castle, but he never appeared himself. Lira should have been relieved. Instead, she felt his absence like a physical ache. Through studying the books he'd sent, histories of vampire kingdoms, guides to court etiquette, maps of Ashvale, she began to understand Nightfall Citadel, its politics, its dangers, and its delicate balance of power. She also found a diary hidden in one of the older books, Serenia's old diary. Lira knew she shouldn't read it, but her curiosity won. Day 43, she read. Valor smiled at me today. An actual smile. And it took 6 weeks of carefully calculated kindness, but I finally cracked that ice exterior. He's beginning to trust me. Day 67. The bond is forming faster than expected. Every time I'm near him, his emotions bleed into me. His loneliness, hope, desperation, and aching need for connection. It's almost sad how easy he is to manipulate. Day 102. He told me he loves me. What a fool. As if a monster like him could understand love. But I played along, cried pretty tears, and whispered sweet lies. The council will be pleased with my progress. Lira felt sick. She kept reading, horrified, unable to stop. Day 178. Valor is changing the laws, freeing villages and reducing tributes. He's become so soft, so pathetically human. The council says it's time. Soon we'll strike, and when we do, his broken heart will shatter what's left of his power. Day 200. I almost feel guilty. Almost. And he looks at me like I'm his salvation. Like I'm the only good thing in his endless existence. Only if he knew the truth. But he won't. Well, not until it's too late. The diary ended there. Lira closed it with shaking hands. No wonder Valor couldn't trust anyone. No wonder he'd rather be empty forever than risk feeling again. Serenia hadn't just betrayed him. She'd turned his emotions into a weapon and destroyed him with surgical precision. You found her diary. Lira jumped. Valor stood in the doorway looking exhausted. He'd clearly been avoiding sleep or whatever passed for rest among vampires. I'm sorry, Lira said. I shouldn't have... It's fine. Valor entered the library, moving to the fireplace. I left it there deliberately. I wanted you to understand why I can't trust you. I'm not her. I know. Valor's voice was soft. Too soft. Dangerous. I read your mind, remember? I know you're genuine. That you actually want to help me. Then why are you still avoiding me? Valor turned to face her, and Lira saw exhaustion in his red eyes. Not physical tiredness, but soul-deep weariness. Because knowing you're genuine makes it worse, he admitted. When Serenia betrayed me, I could hate her. I could tell myself love was a lie. But you... He gestured helplessly. You're real. Your kindness is real. And that means what I'm feeling is real too. Lira's breath caught. What are you feeling? Things I shouldn't, Valor said roughly. The bond hasn't even formed yet, but being near you. I feel echoes. Fragments of emotion trying to come back. It's like being half alive, worse than being dead. That sounds like progress, Lira said carefully. It's torture. Valor's hands clenched. Do you know what it's like to be empty for 600 years and then suddenly feel something again? It's like waking up after being buried alive. Every sensation is too much. Too intense. Lira moved closer. Then let it be too much. Let yourself feel. I can't. Valor backed away from her. If I let myself feel, if I let the bond form, I'll be vulnerable again. Weak. And when you inevitably leave, who says I'll leave? Everyone leaves. The words exploded from him. Through death or betrayal, everyone leaves. Serenia left. My family left. They died centuries ago. Every vampire I've ever cared about has either died or betrayed me. That's the curse of immortality, Lira. You watch everything you love turn to dust. Lira saw it then, the real reason he stayed empty. Not just Serenia's betrayal, but centuries of loss. Every friend who died, every ally who turned enemy. Every connection that had withered under the weight of endless time. I can't promise I won't die, Lira said quietly. I'm human. Fragile. I'll probably only live another 60 years. Exactly. Valor's voice cracked. 60 years. That's nothing. A blink. And then I'll have centuries more to remember you. To mourn you. That's if you don't betray me first. I won't betray you. You can't know that. The bond changes people. Serenia changed. You'll change too. Maybe I will, Lira admitted. Maybe the bond will change me. But I'll still be me underneath. She reached out slowly, giving him time to retreat. When he didn't, she placed her hand over his heart, or where his heart used to beat. And I promise you this, I will never use your emotions as a weapon. I will never manipulate what you feel because I know what that cost you. Valor stared down at her hand on his chest. For a long moment he didn't move. Then, slowly, his own hand came up to cover hers. You terrify me, he whispered. Good, Lira said. You terrify me too. Then we're both fools. Probably. They stood there, hands touching, the bond humming between them even without blood. The library was silent except for the crackling fire and their breathing. I can't promise you forever, Valor said finally. I can't promise I won't hurt you. I can't even promise I'll choose you. Lyra's heart clenched. What do you mean? The council will demand a choice eventually, Valor said, his voice hollow. They'll make me choose between you and my kingdom, between my heart and my crown, and I don't know. His voice broke. I don't know which I'll choose. Your kingdom, Lira said, even though it hurt. You should choose your kingdom. Valor's eyes widened. What? You've ruled for 400 years, Lira said. You've protected thousands of vampires, built an empire. You can't throw that away for one human girl, even if that girl is me. You're telling me to reject you? I'm telling you I understand, Lira said. That's the difference between me and Serenia. She wanted you to choose her over everything else. She needed you to prove your love by destroying yourself. She squeezed his hand gently. I don't need you to destroy yourself for me. I just need you to be honest about what you feel. Valor stared at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. You would accept that? He asked slowly. If I chose the kingdom over you? It would hurt, Lira admitted. But yes, because I love... She stopped, realizing what she'd almost said. Too late. Valor had heard. You love me, he breathed. Already. After only 2 weeks. Lira tried to backtrack, but there was no point. Yes, I don't know how or why, but yes, I love the broken man underneath the monster. I love the king who's terrified of being hurt again. I love you. Tears, impossible, shocking tears, slid down Valor's face. No one has said that to me in 600 years, he whispered, not and meant it. I mean it. Valor pulled her into his arms, crushing her against his chest. He was cold and hard and everything that should feel wrong, but Lira felt safer than she ever had in Shadowbrook. I don't deserve you, Valor said into her hair. Probably not, Lira agreed, but you have me anyway. They stood there holding each other as the fire burned low and shadows danced on the walls. Neither of them saw the figure watching from the doorway. Lord Malachar smiled and disappeared into the darkness. Lira woke to screaming. She bolted upright, heart racing. The sound came from deep in the citadel, inhuman shrieks that made her blood freeze. Her door exploded inward. A vampire she'd never seen before stood there, tall, black hair, golden eyes gleaming with hunger. He wore crimson armor decorated with a silver serpent. Behind him, more vampires waited. The bloodbound, he purred. I can see why Valor's so protective. Lira grabbed a candlestick from the nightstand. "Who are you?" "Lord Malachar." He moved faster than she could track, suddenly beside her, wrenching the candlestick away and grabbing her wrist. "And you're coming with me." "Like hell." A blast of shadow exploded through the room. Malachar flew backward, crashing into the wall hard enough to crack stone. His guards were thrown aside like dolls. Vailor stood in the doorway, wreathed in living darkness. His red eyes burned with rage, unlike anything Lira had seen. Shadows writhed around him like serpents, and the temperature plummeted. "You dare!" His voice was death itself. "Enter my castle. Touch what is mine." "She's bloodbound, Vailor." Malachar struggled to his feet, clutching his ribs. "You can't keep her hidden forever. The council will demand. The council can burn with you." Vailor's shadows formed into blades. "I gave you a chance to leave peacefully. You made your choice." Malachar's guards attacked. What followed was slaughter. Vailor moved through them like a storm, shadow blades cutting through armor and flesh, his raw power overwhelming. Within seconds, both guards lay dead. Malachar backed toward the window. "This isn't over. Others know about her now. They'll come." Vailor was in front of him instantly, hand wrapped around his throat. "Listen carefully. She belongs to me. Her blood belongs to me. Anyone who touches her dies. Spread that message." He threw Malachar through the window. The vampire's scream echoed as he fell into the gorge below. Silence fell. Vailor stood at the broken window, breathing hard, shadows still writhing. Slowly they faded. He turned to Lira. "Are you hurt?" Lira realized she was shaking. "No, I'm fine, She looked at the dead guards, the blood, the shattered glass. "What just happened?" "Malachar tried to take you." Vailor's eyes were still blazing. "He failed." "But he said others know. The council will do nothing," Vailor interrupted. But his expression said otherwise. He approached her slowly. "You're safe, Lira. I won't let anyone take you." "Why?" The question burst from her. "Why do you care so much?" Vailor's mask cracked completely. "Because you're mine," he said, and his voice shook with emotion. "I claimed you. I brought you here, and I will not—" He stopped, struggling. "I will not lose you." "Even though you said you'd never trust me?" "I know." Vailor's hands clenched. "I know it's irrational. I know I swore never to care again. But somehow you've—" He gestured helplessly. "You've gotten under my skin, into my head. And the thought of Malachar taking you, of anyone hurting you—" His eyes flashed with fury. "It made me feel rage. Real, burning rage. And I haven't felt that in centuries." Lira's heart hammered. "The bond is forming, even without drinking my blood." "I know," Vailor said hoarsely. "Every day you're here, every moment we spend together, it grows stronger. Your emotions bleed into me. My dead heart is trying to remember how to beat." "Is that so terrible?" "Yes." But he moved closer anyway, drawn like a moth to flame. "Because it means I'm already in too deep, and I still haven't decided if I can trust you." Before Lira could respond, Lord Kale burst into the room, bloodied and breathing hard. "My lord, Malachar didn't come alone. There's an army at the gates, 200 vampires, maybe more." Vailor's expression went deadly. "How many are ours?" 70. Maybe 80 if we arm the servants." "Not enough," Vailor said grimly. "They're demanding we surrender the bloodbound," Kale continued, "or they'll tear down the citadel." Lira felt ice flood her veins. This was her fault. Her existence had brought war to Nightfall. "Give me to them," she said. Both vampires turned to stare at her. "What?" Vailor's voice was dangerous. "It's me they want," Lira said, trying to sound braver than she felt. "If I go with them, they'll leave. Your people will be safe." "No." "Vailor, be reasonable." "I said no." The shadows exploded around him again. "You're not going anywhere, and I don't care if I have to kill every vampire in that army. You are mine." The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified her. Instead, it made something warm bloom in her chest. "Then what do we do?" she asked quietly. Vailor's jaw clenched. He looked at Kyle. "Prepare for siege. Reinforce the gates. Arm everyone who can hold a weapon." "And if they breach the walls?" Kyle asked. Vailor looked at Lira, and she saw the terrible decision forming behind his eyes. Then I used the forbidden magic. Cale went pale. My lord, you swore never to... I know what I swore, Valor interrupted. But if it's between losing her and losing everything else... He stopped, seeming to realize what he'd just revealed. He would choose her over his kingdom. He would burn everything down rather than let her go. Lira saw the truth in his eyes and her heart broke, because she knew with absolute certainty that choice would destroy him, just like Serenia had destroyed him, but worse, because this time it would be his own decision. No, Lira said firmly. You can't... It's not your choice, Valor said, his voice final. He turned to Kyle. Get her to the West Wing, the reinforced chamber. If they breach, you get her to the catacombs. Valor, please. But he was already walking away, shadows trailing behind him like wounded ghosts. Cale gently took Lyra's arm. Come on, we need to move. As they rushed through the corridors, Lyra's mind raced. She couldn't let Valor destroy himself for her. She couldn't be another Serenia, another person who ruined him. There had to be another way. The West Wing chamber was a fortress within a fortress, stone walls 3 feet thick, iron door with magical wards, a single window, overlooking the mountains. Cale locked her inside with strict orders to stay put. Lira lasted exactly 5 minutes before she started looking for a way out. The window was too high, but there was a ventilation shaft in the corner. Small, probably led to the dungeons, definitely dangerous. Perfect. Lira squeezed into the shaft, her heart pounding. She had to find Valor before he did something catastrophic. She had to make him see that choosing her over his kingdom would destroy him worse than Serenia ever had. The shaft led down, down, into darkness. Lyra's arms ached. Her dress tore on rough stone, but she kept going until she dropped into a storage room in the lower levels. She could hear fighting above, the clash of steel, screams, the roar of magic. Lira ran toward the sound. She emerged onto the walls just as Malakar's forces attacked the main gate with a battering ram. Valor's defenders fought back desperately, but they were outnumbered 3-1, and in the center of it, all, wreathed in shadows that seemed more alive than ever before, was Valor. He was magnificent and terrifying. His shadows tore through enemies like they were paper. His sword danced death, and every movement was lethal grace. But Lira saw what the others didn't. The strain, the exhaustion, and the way his shadows flickered and wavered. He was burning through his power too fast. A group of 3 vampires attacked him simultaneously while he was distracted. One of them got through his guard, driving a blade into his side. Valor stumbled. Lyra's world stopped. No! She didn't think. She just ran. Grabbed a fallen sword, threw herself between Valor and his attackers. Lira! No! Valor's scream was raw. But Lira didn't hesitate. She swung the sword. And silver light erupted from the blade. The power that had been sleeping inside her all her life suddenly surged through her veins, demanding release. It poured through the sword in waves of pure blood-bound energy. The vampires, attacking Valor, screamed as the light touched them, burning like holy fire. They stumbled backward, smoking. Malakar himself appeared at the walls, staring at Lira in shock. Bloodbound power! She's awakened! Lira swung again. The silver energy exploded outward in a wave, crashing into Malakar and his nearest soldiers. They fled, unable to withstand the burning light. The attacking army faltered, stumbled, retreated. As soon as they were gone, the silver light faded. The sword fell from Lyra's hands, and she collapsed. Valor caught her before she hit the ground, one hand pressed against his bleeding wound. You impossible, beautiful, foolish girl. What have you done? Saved you, Lira whispered. Then darkness took her. Lira woke in Valor's bed. For a moment she was disoriented. Then memories flooded back. The battle, the silver light, Valor falling. Valor! She sat up too fast, gasping as her head spun. I'm here. His voice came from beside the bed. He sat in a chair, bandages visible beneath his open shirt. His face was paler than usual, but alive. Lie still. You overextended yourself badly. Are you all right? Lira stared at the bandages. I saw you get stabbed. I'll heal. Valor's red eyes studied her intently. You shouldn't have come out there. I told you to hide. And let you die? Lira shook her head. Not a chance. You awakened your bloodbound power, Valor said quietly. That's extremely rare. Most bloodbound never learn to weaponize it. They only manifest through the blood bond itself. How did I do it? Desperation. Fear. Valor hesitated. And a connection already forming between us. Your power responded to my danger because the bond wanted to protect me. Lyra's breath caught. What does that mean? It means, Valor said slowly, that we're running out of time. The bond is forming whether we want it to or not. Your blood calls to me. My soul calls to yours. Every day makes it stronger. Then stop fighting it, Lira said. Let it happen. Valor stood abruptly and paced to the window. You don't understand what you're asking. If I drink from you, if I complete the bond, there's no going back. We'll be connected forever. You'll feel everything I feel. I'll feel everything you feel. There will be no privacy, no escape. I know. And when the council demands I choose between you and my kingdom, and they will demand it, Lira, what then? Valor turned to face her, anguish written across his features. What happens when I have to decide between my heart and my crown? Then you choose your crown, Lira said firmly. You choose your kingdom, your people, everything you've built, and I'll accept it. Will you? Valor moved closer. Or will you hate me for it? Resent me? Eventually leave me like everyone else? I won't leave you, Lira said. Even if you choose the kingdom, even if you never complete the bond, I won't leave. I'll stay as long as you'll have me. Why? The question was raw, desperate. Why would you do that? Because I love you, Lira said simply. And love means letting you make the choice that's right for you, even if it hurts me. Valor stared at her like she'd performed a miracle. Then he crossed the room in 3 strides and kissed her. It was nothing like their first kiss. This was desperate, hungry, 600 years of loneliness pouring into a single moment. His cold lips moved against hers with savage need. Lira wrapped her arms around his neck, pulling him closer despite his wounded side. Through the partial bond, she felt his emotions crashing over her. Fear, desire, love so intense it nearly drowned her. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Valor pressed his forehead against hers. I can't lose you, he whispered. But I can't lose my kingdom either. I'm being torn in half. Then don't choose yet, Lira said. We still have time. Do we? Valor pulled back slightly. Malachar will return. The council will convene. And when they do, they'll force my hand. A knock at the door interrupted them. Kael entered, his expression grim. My lord, the council is here, all 12 of them. They're waiting in the throne room. Valor's jaw clenched. So it begins. He looked at Lira, conflict warring in his red eyes. Then he leaned down and kissed her forehead gently. Stay here, he said. No matter what you hear, promise me. Valor, promise me, Lira. She saw the fear in his eyes. Not fear for himself, but fear of what he might become if he had to make the choice. I promise, she whispered. Valor nodded and left with Kael. Lira sat on the bed, her heart racing. She could feel his emotions through the partial bond, determination, dread, love warring with duty. And underneath it all, a terrible certainty. He was going to choose the kingdom. He was going to reject her to save his people, and it would break them both. The throne room felt like a tomb. 12 ancient vampires stood in a semicircle before Valor's throne. They were older than him, most turned over 1,000 years ago. Their eyes held the weight of millennia. The eldest, a woman with white hair and silver eyes, stepped forward. King Valor Draven, she said, her voice echoing with power. You have broken sacred law. You have allowed a bloodbound human to awaken her power. You have fought a war to protect her. You have chosen her interests over the stability of the kingdom. I broke no law, Valor said coldly from his throne. The bond formed naturally, and I did not coerce it. But you allowed it to continue, another council member interjected. You should have killed the girl the moment you sensed what she was. Her name is Lira, Valor said, his voice dropping dangerously, and I will not kill her. Then you have chosen her over your kingdom, the white-haired woman said. The bond makes you weak, emotional, and unfit to rule. Valor stood from his throne, his presence filling the room. I have ruled for 400 years. I have expanded our territory, strengthened our armies, and brought prosperity to vampire kind. Do not question my fitness." "You declared war on Lord Malachar for her," another council member accused. "You risked everything to protect one human." "And I would do it again," Valor said flatly. The council members exchanged glances. "Then we have no choice," the white-haired woman said. "By ancient law, we strip you of your crown. You are no longer king of Nightfall, and the blood-bound human is sentenced to death." The throne room erupted. Valor's shadows exploded violently. "You dare—" "We dare because we must," the woman interrupted. "The bloodbound are too dangerous. They make us vulnerable." "They make us human," Valor roared. The citadel shook. "They remind us we were once more than monsters, that we can be more than creatures who feed on fear." He descended from his throne. The council actually stepped back. "I was dead inside for 600 years, Valor continued, his voice raw. "I felt and cared for nothing. I was the perfect king by your standards, cold, ruthless, and merciless. But I was miserable." He looked toward the door where Lira waited beyond. "She brought me back to life. She made me feel again. And you want to kill her for it?" "We want to protect you from yourself," the white-haired woman said almost gently. "You loved a bloodbound once before, and it destroyed you." "Serenia betrayed me," Valor said. "Lira won't." "You cannot know that." "I can." Valor's voice dropped. "Because she's already told me to choose the kingdom over her, and she's already given me permission to let her die if that's what saves my people. That's the difference between her and Serenia." The council was silent. Finally, the white-haired woman spoke. "There is one way to resolve this. Through the law of choice." Valor went very still. "Explain." "If a vampire king chooses mortality for love, and if he willingly surrenders immortality and crown, to become human, the council cannot interfere. It is the ultimate sacrifice. Therefore, sacred." "You're asking me to choose," Valor said slowly. "Right now, between my kingdom and her." "We're giving you the option," the woman corrected. "Choose mortality. Walk away from the throne and you both go free. Choose immortality and she dies tonight." Silence fell like a blade. Every vampire in the room watched Valor, waiting. This was it. The moment that would define everything. Valor's hands clenched. 600 years of power. 400 years of building a kingdom. And centuries of hard-won stability. Against one human lifetime with a woman he'd known for barely a month. It shouldn't even be a question. But through the partial bond he could feel Lira waiting in his chambers, her fear, her love, and her absolute certainty that he would choose correctly. Choose the kingdom, choose duty, and choose to be the king his people needed. She had already forgiven him for letting her die. She loved him enough to let him go. And that changed everything. Because Serenia had demanded he choose her. Had manipulated him into weakness. Had used his love as a weapon. But Lira was setting him free to make the right choice, even if it killed her. Valor closed his eyes, felt the weight of the crown on his head, the weight of centuries, the weight of duty, and underneath it all, the weight of his own dead heart, trying desperately to remember how to beat. He thought about waking up tomorrow, empty again, watching another century crawl by without feeling anything. He thought about the endless parade of days and nights, cold and hollow, the perfect immortal king. He thought about never seeing Lira's silver eyes again, never feeling that warmth through the bond, never experiencing joy or pain or love or any of the messy, beautiful, terrible things that made existence worth living. He thought about choosing duty over life, and he realized he'd already been dead for 600 years. What was another millennium of the same? Valor opened his eyes and looked at the council. "I choose mortality," he said, and his voice cracked. "I choose her. I choose to live again, however brief that life may be." Gasps echoed through the throne room. Cale stepped forward, his expression agonized. "My lord, please." "I'm sorry, old friend," Valor said, removing his crown, "but I've been dead long enough. It's time to be alive again." He turned to the white-haired woman. "What must I do?" "Are you certain?" she asked, searching his face. "Once done, this cannot be undone. You will age. You will die. You will lose everything you've built." I know. Valor smiled, and it was the first real smile he'd worn in centuries. And I'll gain something far more valuable, a life worth living. The council formed a circle around him. They placed their hands on his shoulders, his head, his chest. Ancient words filled the air. Power erupted, terrible and beautiful. Light blazed, so bright it hurt to look at. Valor screamed. It was the sound of transformation, of immortality burning away, of a monster becoming human again. His shadows dissipated. His red eyes flickered, changing to deep brown. His pale skin warmed, gaining color and life. He collapsed to his knees as the magic completed. The council stepped back, and kneeling on the floor was not the vampire king, but simply a man, mortal, vulnerable, human. Valor looked at his hands, watching his pulse beat beneath newly warm skin. I can feel my heart, he whispered. My human heart. The throne room door burst open. Lira stood there, breathless, having broken her promise to stay away. She'd felt everything through the bond, his decision, his transformation, his choice. You chose me, she sobbed. You actually chose me. I chose life, Valor corrected, his new brown eyes meeting hers. You just happen to be the reason it's worth living. Lira ran to him, dropping to her knees and throwing her arms around him. He was warm now, truly, wonderfully warm, and when she pressed her ear to his chest, she could hear his heartbeat. Strong, steady, alive. You're an idiot, she cried into his shoulder. You gave up everything. No, Valor said, holding her tight. I gave up immortality. I kept everything that matters. Behind them, Kale approached. His eyes were wet. The crown passes to you, Lord Kale, the white-haired council member said. You will be crowned at sunset. Kale nodded, unable to speak. Valor stood on shaky legs, still adjusting to mortality, and helped Lira up. He looked around the throne room one last time. Rule with wisdom, he told Kale, and perhaps be kinder than I was. End the tribute system. Give humans a choice. I will, Kale promised. I will honor you, my friend. Then I have no regrets. Valor took Lyra's hand. Where should we go? Shadowbrook, Lira said immediately. To see Finn. To build a life. Valor laughed, a real, genuine human laugh. Then Shadowbrook it is. They left the throne room together, walking away from power and immortality towards something far more precious. A chance to live. 5 years later. The cottage on Shadowbrook's edge was small but full of life. Valor knelt in the garden, dirt under his fingernails, teaching 7-year-old Alara how to plant tomatoes. Their daughter had her mother's silver eyes and her father's dark hair. Like this, Papa? Alara asked, patting dirt around a seedling. Perfect, Valor said, smiling. He still marveled at simple things. The warmth of sunlight, the smell of earth, the sound of his daughter's laughter. Inside, Lira was teaching 15-year-old Finn advanced herbalism while simultaneously keeping 2-year-old Theron, who had Valor's brown eyes and Lyra's stubborn spirit, from eating the medicinal plants. Finn, can you grab your nephew before he poisons himself? Lira called. Finn scooped up Theron with the ease of practice. Come on, little monster. Let's go help your papa. As Finn carried Theron outside, Lira moved to the window and watched her family in the garden. Valor was showing Alara which plants needed more water. Finn was letting Theron help dig holes. Everyone was laughing. She felt Valor's contentment through the bond, complete, absolute, without a trace of regret. He caught her watching and smiled, mouthed, I love you. I love you too, she mouthed back. That evening, after the children were asleep, Valor and Lira sat by the fire. Do you miss it? Lira asked softly, not for the first time. The power? The immortality? Valor considered the question seriously. Sometimes, he admitted. I miss being able to protect you absolutely, and I miss the certainty of forever. He took her hand, his fingers warm and calloused from farm work. But I don't miss being empty. I don't miss the loneliness, and I certainly don't miss being a monster. He looked at her, and his brown eyes shone with unshed tears. I would rather have 50 years of this, of you, of our children, of sunlight and laughter and feeling alive, than 1,000 years of cold eternity. What if we don't get 50 years? Lira whispered. You're mortal now. Fragile. Anything could... Then we'll have whatever time we get, Valor interrupted gently. And we'll make every single moment count. He pulled her close, and Lira felt through their bond his absolute certainty, his peace, his joy. He had been king of Nightfall, ruler of vampires, an immortal god. Now he was simply Valor, husband, father, farmer, human, and he was happier than he'd ever been in 600 years. Outside, the stars glittered. In Nightfall Citadel, King Kale ruled with wisdom and compassion, slowly reforming vampire society. The tribute system had ended. Humans and vampires were learning to coexist. And in a small cottage in Shadowbrook, two souls who had found each other against impossible odds held each other close. "Thank you," Valor whispered into Lyra's hair. "For what?" "For loving me enough to let me choose," he said. "For not being Serenia. For giving me a reason to live again." Lira pulled back to look at him. "I didn't give you anything. You chose it yourself." "No," Valor said, cupping her face gently. "You gave me everything. You gave me hope, and hope gave me the courage to choose life." He kissed her softly as the fire crackled and the night deepened. He had been meant to kill her. Instead, he had chosen to live with her. And that made all the difference.